saying, Tesla forgot this, Tesla forgot. Hey, do you want to join my team? Well, what do I think of them? And it's my honest opinion. TRL, I don't mean to put TX3 in a bad light. I've written Veloce down, and then, for example, I've got Yaz Heat next. I've written down SDL, Next Gen Racing, GBRC. Then we've got GT Planet. Finally, I've written Ronin GT down. Hello everyone, and welcome once again to a slightly different video. I've not done one of these in a little while, I must admit. However, it's an interesting one. It's one that I got asked a few months ago actually. I was meant to do a few weeks ago, and we're doing it now, which is, should you join a team? Now, as always, I've got notes in front of me in case I forget anything. I do that now because usually I get notes after saying, Tesla forgot this, Tesla forgot. Yeah, well, I'm trying not to forget stuff. That's the main goal here. But yeah, should you join a team? Well, let's look at it from two different perspectives, because I think there's two types of teams. You've got the community teams, and you've also got the esports teams. Now, what I'm going to do is, in the background, you should see various team-based races that have happened, team versus team, in terms of the GT Planet one, and ones before that as well, and some teams we're going to talk about afterwards. I'm also going to look at 10 teams and tell you what first comes to mind with that team and a prevalent driver in that team that I can think of at the time. But do stay tuned for that one. That's right at the end. What should you look at for a team? Why should you join a team if you get offered a place, or if somebody messages you and says, hey, do you want to join my team? Well, here's what you should be looking out for, really, is the fact that a team should give you some training partners. So if you do FIA in Gran Turismo, it's kind of nice to have some people that you can train and do races with. You know, being able to go out and practice, just open the lobby, they'll join in, you can bounce off each other, say where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are, and you know they're not cheating or doing anything weird, and you know you're not going to get rammed off unless it's a warm-up, and then of course you ram everybody off. And you also generate new friendships. I mean, I've made friends throughout the years by joining teams. When I first joined GTA, I made friends because they were all in the same GT Academy. I was obviously in a different one, and yeah, well, I joined and then made friendships ever since. And I'm still friends with the GTA guys. I might not be in the team anymore, but I can still talk to them. I can still talk to Matty, and everyone. It's great. And you can make friendships, and long-term friendships at that. So let's then look at community teams, because I'm bouncing off the fact that you make new friendships. Community teams are the core of that. You make new friends. You've got the same goals. You want to have some clean racing potentially. So you can make new friends in community teams. Usually community teams are non-contracting, so you're not signing anything, you're not signing your life away to say, oh, I must do this, I must do that. It's just generally an agreement between you and the team, and you go, yeah, I'd like to race with you and join you. Generally speaking, a team will have like an ethos around racing, so a lot of the time with the community teams, it's all about just racing clean and fair. So there's a lot of community leagues and community teams. So GBRC, who take part in all the community championships, they really are focused around being like the cleanest team possible. It's amazing when they race. They are so sports, like the sportsmanship that they show is amazing. And it's one thing that I look at and I go, that is a team I would go and look at if I wasn't in a team. And I wanted to join a team which has very like-minded people that just want purely clean racing. Shout out to GBRC. Hey, we'll talk about them in a little while. Sometimes community teams will provide liveries. And I say sometimes because not always. These are teams that are not funded in any way. It's just a group of people coming together, create a team, like-minded individuals, basically. So sometimes you'll have a livery designer, and sometimes you won't. And that's just the way it is. Don't get me wrong. If you join a team, there is some things that are expected of you, even in the community teams. And that sometimes you'll be expected to race with either the team livery or team logos on the car, essentially. You've seen that with some of the racing liveries that I've got, and but that's more of the esports team, so we'll come back to that in a second. Obviously, most of the time, you are expected to race clean and race fair. Now, the reason I say this is because when you are out on circuit, when you're racing, when you're driving, you are representing that team. So if you've got the logo on the car of that team, maybe you're racing in the full team colours, you're representing that team. So if you decide to absolutely punt someone to Narnia, you are representing the team doing that. So are you shining a bad light on the team? Don't really want to do that. race clean and race fair. That's the general rule of thumb if you are in a team. I'll say general rule of thumb because I will come back to it in a second. And you may potentially be asked to join team versus team events. They are good fun events. I've been asked to join a few team versus team events. I was a part of the GT Planet one, of course, but that was more the esports side. But I've been a part of non-esports teams as well. Communities coming together, so like getting 8 drivers in the community of one and 8 in another, going together and having a big old brawl in a race. It is fun. It is really, really fun. So you might be expected to do those. Now, that's really it for community teams. There's not a huge amount that goes on. Of course, as I say, you may practice together, you'll race together, and you'll have fun. Now, sometimes you might even do meetups in real life, which are awesome. Team meetups are absolutely awesome in real life. And if you do get the chance to do that, do it. Although we can't at the moment due to the current pandemic. Let's put it that way. So obviously, maybe you are quite good at the old video games in racing, or maybe something else, I don't know. And you want to join an esports team, or an esports team has approached you. Should you sign for them? Well, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. Should you join that team? So obviously, you're going to be signing a contract, which is a little bit more real and a bit more professional and a bit more legal, actually, is probably the best word. There are legalities involved in teams. Now, I've seen lots of contracts. I've seen contracts which are 2 pages in size, and I've seen contracts which are like 40 pages in size, and they are detailed. Oh, don't get me wrong, they are very, very detailed, and you're normally signing for a particular period of time, and it's normally exclusivity on top of that. So let's just say you sign for one team, and then you have another team come and approach you, and they go, oh, we can offer you this. So generally speaking, if you try and cut the contract short early, you will not be able to go to the other team. You will not be able to sign for that other team. You do have to be a little bit more careful, and I would highly recommend you are careful and you read every little bit of detail. You don't want to become liable for something later on after you signed a document. So do be careful of that. Now, in that document, you may have sponsor obligations. So on-stream / content for them, shout-outs for them, creating content purely for them. So it's not even going on your YouTube channel. It's going on their channel or their media platforms, and of course advertisements just as a whole. Now, if you have a look at my streams, obviously I brand Lazarus everywhere. I brand their sponsors where I can, and they create those graphics for me to be able to do that. Now, with me, so just to give you a bit of an idea, I don't join a team just purely because of their name, for example, or what it might be. I join a team either because I like their message or ethos behind the team, or I like a particular sponsor that the team signed by, So Logitech is a really good example. I really love Logitech gear. I'm wearing the headset right now. Lazarus, partnered with Logitech. Great. It's a great partnership because I'm like, oh, excellent. I can work with them already. Brilliant. Which is really good. And obviously with Lazarus, and the reason why I signed for Lazarus, just to give you a bit of background with this, is that I saw who was in Lazarus. Obviously Lewis was in there, M. Thomas, Thomas has come as well. It's awesome to be able to join people I'm already friends with. It really is. And that way I also know they race the same way in terms of their like-mindedness, in terms of racing. And I know I've got good training partners then because we're on the same time rather than being all the way around the world. It gets a little bit different. So we can train really well if we wanted to do that. Me and Thomas obviously tried strategically so hard in 2019 to team up and work together and just try and get to the world finals. You saw that a lot in the races. I remember Monza, everyone trying to jump with me and Thomas at Monza, trying to get in the slipstream train because we were really trying to push towards the front. Hey, and we made it! Happy days, Thomas! But yes, back to the video anyway, with the esports teams. Some of the teams might pay you, believe it or not. I know that some teams, or some drivers in teams, got paid for going to events. So they'd achieved the goal of getting to an event, so you get paid a bonus. Some teams get paid a bonus at the event. So if they win the event, they get a nice little bonus in terms of advertisement because they then have, for example, LZR Tidgney under there, and then you get a bonus. Now, I don't get a bonus for that kind of thing, but I know other teams do in GT Sport as well as others. So you can look for that. Now, with the team will, probably should as well, depends on the level the team invests, really, and its seriousness in esports. offer you training. So, you know, if you need training in a particular area, they should help with that. They might even prepare like a little schedule for you to improve. I've never been provided that, but I know some teams do that. Liveries, of course, you know liveries are provided by Lazarus, for example, but there are liveries provided by these teams because that's their team colours, that's their team livery for the year. So they provide it for all the cars, and then the teams can go out there and use it. I think Williams is probably one of the best examples for that, Williams Esports, because their livery is pretty much the same throughout all the games. So you can really, you know it's a Williams Esports car just by the look of the livery. So you can definitely tell that. Also equipment. So obviously, Lazarus, for example, are partnered with Logitech. So I've had a lot of Logitech gear provided for me, like the headset, for example. So obviously, that allows you to improve on the game. And teams will provide that for you as well. So, you know, if you do want to be the best, teams provide the best equipment they can with the partners they have. And hopefully that gets you that little bit further, or potentially wins the golden trophy in a tournament, and then that team gets the advertisement for that. But don't get me wrong, the teams don't provide that for free. There are certain requirements, especially in the esports side of it. So in terms of contracts, sometimes if there is prize money on offer, you have to give a percentage of that prize money to the team. That's all in the contracts, and they're the little things you have to look out for. Now, as I say, I've seen various contracts throughout the years, some wanting massive amounts of the cut, and some wanting tiny amounts, and some not wanting anything at all, which is nice to see, because they see the marketing side of it being the bigger value there, and that then obviously allows drivers to go, I'll go for them because I don't lose anything. Some may have performance requirements. So what do I mean by this? They may say you have to qualify for at least 3 tournaments a year, or you have to get to this particular tournament, which obviously means you're going to have to put some effort in and some time. Now, yes, it sounds nice on the face of it, and you go, oh yeah, I can qualify for any tournament you like. Oh yeah, I'll sign here. Yeah, everybody else is trying to compete for the tournament. It's not that easy. So where you might have put in 2 hours before, you now have to put in 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, and then suddenly on top of all of that, you've got your real life stuff as well. Because, you know, in racing terms, there's not very many people doing this full time. Let's be real here. Especially in Gran Turismo, it is not a full-time esports that you can play. So you've got to really look at the balance of your life balance and what is potentially being asked of you from a team, because that is critical in the grand scheme of it. As I said, you've got to race in the team colours and liveries. You have to make sure your cars have those liveries. Not all teams make it a requirement, but some do make it a requirement, and you do have to be careful of that. And you may be required to attend any team events or meetings that they put out there. So if the team says, you've got to be at this event, or you've got to go to this meeting at X time, at Y time, then you've got to go to that. Now, it's always nice to talk to a team beforehand, so I'll give you a perfect example here, and this is why Lazarus is pretty awesome. So obviously, you know I work in education. August, September, October, hugely time-consuming with my real-life job. So as a part of that, you know, obviously the team want me to go to these events where I can, and want me to go to any team events. If they put them on, I should go to those. But I talked to them and I said, I can't go to anything there here. You will see me slow down in content, for example, in these months because of work. And they were like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. That's no worries. We completely understand. And it's that sort of thing you'll look for in a team. That's why Lazarus is so awesome, for example, because they look at a player and they go, yeah, okay, we know real life stuff happens. We will try and deal with that in the best way possible. And you work together. And that way you have a better outcome as a team and as a driver. So do look out for that sort of thing in the contracts as well. And you can always negotiate these contracts, by the way. A lot of people may get their first contract and go, ooh. So yeah, have a look at them. Show it somebody on the legal side. It's always best to get legal advice. Now, obviously, I know a couple of people in the legal side just because I work in education. So I can always approach them and ask them X, Y, and Z. And I have done that about contracts in the past that have been offered to me on the esports side. And I have rejected contracts and opportunities which could have grown massive because of little clauses or wording, and they didn't want to change it. So I'm like, well, sorry, I can't sign for you then. Because that is literally one of those things. It's a mutual agreement between two parties when you are signing for an esports team. That sounds all quite scary, doesn't it, really? Should you join a team? Community teams, absolutely. I think if you have the opportunity to join a community team and they have the same ethical standards or same racing standards that you like and enjoy, I would go for it. And I would make new friends and enjoy your time racing where you possibly can. Esports, yes, but just be careful about the contracts you are signing and remember about the release clauses and stuff like that. You just got to be careful. And there's a lot of time in esports that you will have to put away, which will impact, and I promise you, it will impact socially. You've got to keep that in mind. Your social life, your work life, your family life are all impacted by esports. It's not a case of you can win everything and still have enough time to do everything. That is very hard to do and pretty much impossible to do, to be honest. You have to be doing it full time to even be able to manage that. But if you do get the opportunity, look at it and decide for yourself. I did say I was going to do something fun at the end, which is I'm going to name 10 teams. I've got 10 esports teams here and 10 community teams, or what I would consider community teams. In fact, no, I've got 4 of them, actually. I've not got 5. And I'm just going to put them out there of what I think of them. And it's my honest opinion. And also a notable driver in that team that I sort of remember them by. Okay. So first off, TRL, which is very easy. It's Lightning, of course. TRL Lightning. And TRL... I've always known them as being at the very forefront of sim racing. It doesn't matter what it is, which sim. I've always known TRL to be very good. I've raced TRL in Mortal Pilot in the past. I hope he's well, by the way, because we've not seen him in years. And obviously, the main driver I'm aware of in TRL is Lightning. So shout out to Lightning. TX3. Now, I'm going to give an interesting one here. So TX3, in terms of drivers... we're going to go with... Who's a current driver? Yeah, I know an old driver. I'm going to say... I think they were called Nexo. And I'm going to talk about this. I don't mean to put TX3 in a bad light, but this is a demonstration of why you need to represent the team in a good way. Okay, so back in Project Cars days, okay, we were racing at Monza. And this didn't happen to me. But a TX3 driver purposely put somebody in the wall live at an esports event. Like purely live on screen. Nobody could believe it. Now TX3 got rid of the driver. He also got banned from all events thereafter as well. But that shows you that you have to behave when you're in a team. It doesn't matter whether it's a community team or an esports team. You have to behave. And that's how I've always remembered TX3. Now TX3 now is a good team. You know, I will shout them out, TX3, because I don't want to put a bad light on you. You are a good team. And their drivers do behave. You know, I've raced a lot of their drivers and they do behave very well. So shout out to you for that. But I just thought I'd talk about that because a lot of people don't realize that if you're in a team, you do have to behave. It's just one of those things, behave. I've written Veloce down. So Veloce, I just think of Isaac. So you won't know Isaac that well. I've not raced Isaac in a while, but I just remember Isaac from the old days of Project Cars. We had some glorious racing there. Veloce, a very serious team. They are sort of like the primary team that holds subsidiary teams, if that makes sense. So they're like the main organizers. And then, for example, I've got Yaz Heat next. So I think of Jardier for that one. But in Yaz Heat is run by Veloce as well, and there's other teams run by Veloce. So it's like a big organization with smaller racing teams underneath that. Obviously, we know Jardier. Absolutely, just like the amount of sim racing he does is nuts. So go check Jardier out. I'm sure you all already do. I had a good few races with Jardier in the past. Not had many recently because we're just on different sims, or Jardier is normally at the front, and I'm in the mid-pack on Assetto Corsa Competizione. But hey, we'll have some more good races soon, I hope. I've written down SDL. So SDL is another one of those where, you know, your behavior and attitude has had an impact. Let's put it that way. I've not seen SDL in a while, but I think of SDL Sonic, of course. So Sonic is the team leader. Now, in the past, SDL, when I think of SDL, I think of some of the manipulations that they've done. Now, they may change their attitude and may have changed it more recently. But back in the Project Cars days, again, I have to go back to that because that was the first esports experience. That's where people were trying to be big and go for it, etc. With the first racing esports, really. SDL tried everything at Le Mans, one of the esports races, to get TRL banned. They tried everything. So TRL came back and said, so basically they complained about track limits and said, TRL did this many track limits. So TRL did the exact same thing and went through all SDLs, and they'd done more track limits SDL than TRL. So, yeah, that's what I remember by them. Hopefully they've changed their ethos going forward, but that's what I remember by them. And that's why they're not very well liked, or haven't been very well liked in the past. And we had that situation at Catalunya in GT Sport where some people were letting people go, some people did not want to overtake, me included. So, yeah, it is what it is with that one. So that just gives you a representation of the esports teams. There are 5 that I've just picked out at random. I did write down quite a few, but they're the ones. And I've mentioned some others in this, like Williams Esports. So community teams, I've written down Next Gen Racing. So if you don't know who they are, they organise a heck of a lot of races. I've been offered to do team versus team with them. We've also done it against them as well. Very good team. Whenever I race with them or part of their events, all I know is that when I see orange, I do think of Next Gen, which is kind of interesting. But you can check them out. They're on Facebook. They're all over the place. Just check them out. It's a good community. GBRC. Now, believe it or not, I actually don't know what GBRC stands for. I'm going to guess it's Great British Racing Club, maybe, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe you guys can actually say. But the one thing that I know from this team, is that, and I said it earlier on, they are super duper clean. They are ridiculously clean at racing. If I'm racing one of those drivers in anything, I know I'm going to get a clean race. And if they do make a mistake and hit me, they're going to give it back. They always do. They are superb drivers. And I'm going to shout out on that team, Trev. Trev, you get the shout out. So we've got GT Planet. Now, GT Planet, is it a team? Is it not? It's hard to say. But back in the day, especially in the earlier Gran Turismos, to race in their tournaments, you had to have a GTP tag. And they're still around today. Shout out to you, Dutchy, because I know you're in the events quite often. So GTP, of course, GT Planet. I always go check out their forum. Huge amount of content on there. And arguably, they actually gave me my big break on YouTube back in 2011 when I did my GT Academy video. But it's a good site. And they have when I'm racing GTP drivers, I know they're racing clean because they're a part of that community. It's a big community to represent. And yeah, shout out to GT Planet. Finally, I've written Ronin GT down. They've got a bit quiet lately. But back in the day, again, Ronin GT, it's known for clean racing. They put on events, and you had the Ronin GT tag. With all these teams, you would always have a tag in front of your name, generally speaking. Or some other teams who don't necessarily ask you to do that. But yeah, Ronin GT again, clean racing. And I'm going to shout out... We'll shout out Hake. Hake, you can have the shout out for Ronin GT. But they're the teams I've chosen. Obviously, if you've got a team, by the way, and I've not mentioned it, and you're trying to recruit, or you got a message you want to put out there and say, check out this, put it in the comments. Lob it down below. You can always come in the Discord as well. We have a racing adverts area. So if you are looking for new drivers, lob it in there. And if anyone is looking for a team, you can have a look in there. But that's going to be it for this video. An interesting one, I hope. Hope you've enjoyed it. And thank you, as always, for supporting the channel. Do give it a like if you have liked it. Subscribe to the channel to stay in touch with all the content. But that's going to be it for me, folks. Thank you for watching once again. Au revoir and farewell.